Everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I am pleased to welcome you to the TriLink Biotechnologies mRNA Basics webinar series. Today's webinar topic is capping strategies for mRNA manufacturing. mRNA Basics is an educational webinar series that covers a key mRNA topic each month. In addition to the presentation, a question and answer session with our expert presenter is included in each webinar. To have your questions answered, please use the questions panel to submit them during the presentation. More webinar topics will be announced soon, so be sure to subscribe to our mailing list for the latest updates. Our presenter today is Scott Taylor, Senior Alliance Manager at TriLink. Scott has worked with NTPs, capping reagents, and mRNA for years, both in the lab and as an alliance manager supporting client projects. He is very familiar with capping technologies for mRNA therapeutics and will be able to take your questions at the end of today's presentation. With that, I will hand the presentation over to Scott.
Hello, and thank you very much, Dina, for that introduction, and thank you all for joining today. First, I wanted to start with a brief overview of the agenda for today's presentation. Topics that will be covered are an introduction to TriLink, a messenger RNA structure overview, a review of different capping technologies for traditional mRNAs, a review of mRNA capping strategies that focuses on self-amplifying messenger RNAs, some brief conclusions, and then finally we'll open up for a Q&A session as time allows. So let's get started here with a little bit of an introduction to TriLink. TriLink manufactures nucleic acids, NTPs, plasmids, and messenger RNA cap analogs as comprehensive CDMO services and through an expansive catalog menu. We empower research, diagnostic, vaccine, and therapeutic programs with critical reagents, expert scientific consultation, and flexible manufacturing support. Furthermore, our manufacturing can scale with program needs from discovery or research all the way to GMP grade. Now some information on our headquarters. On the right, you'll see a picture of our facility in San Diego, California. That's approximately 118,000 square feet with expansion opportunities. 50,000 square feet of that is custom designed manufacturing and lab space with over 10 times scale-up capabilities across our operations. And we have 15 ISO 7 and ISO 8 GMP customer suites with Class 5 finish and fill capabilities within those suites. TriLink was founded in 1996, and since 2011, we have been pioneering and leading contract manufacturing of messenger RNAs. So here you can see a summary of the different product lines that TriLink offers. As you may notice, they are all based in nucleic acid with analytical services and GMP manufacturing capabilities to support all 5 of the core product lines. While the conversation today, we're going to focus on CleanCap and messenger RNA. We also wanted to highlight and mention our newly launched plasmid capabilities that we've been really excited to start offering now in 2021. And I guess with that, we'll jump into capping strategies for mRNA manufacturing. As a quick primer, wanted to start with a quick overview of the structure of a messenger RNA. A mature mRNA has 5 key elements as shown here. Firstly, you have the 5' cap as shown in the blue box. Next to that, you have the 5' untranslated region, or UTR for short. In the middle, in the darker blue, you have the coding region, also commonly referred to as the open reading frame, or ORF for short. Then next to that, we have the 3' untranslated region, and then finally at the end, we have the 3' poly A tail. And also, I wanted to briefly review why capping is so important for messenger RNAs. In short, without a 5' cap, appreciable levels of translation will not occur. More specifically, the 5' cap is critical for various functions, such as regulating transport of the mRNA within the cell, imparting nuclease resistance, and thereby increasing the half-life of the mRNA, promoting mRNA splicing, and also to recruit processing and translation factors to the RNA in order to support initiation of that translation process. Here we have the 2 main types of mRNA cap structures, which are designated cap 0, shown on the bottom left, and then cap 1, which you can see on the bottom right. Starting with the cap0 structure, you can see the N7-methylguanosine residue, which is attached to the adjacent or +1 residue via that 5' to 5' triphosphate linkage. Note in the green circle, it highlights a 2' OH group on the sugar in that +1 position. And that is what designates it as a cap0 structure. This N7-methyl-G-cap structure is essential for efficient translation of the RNA to express a protein. Then if we shift the focus over to the cap1 structure on the right, you'll notice that that 2' OH group has been replaced by a 2' O methyl group in the green circle. That's what designates a cap1 structure, essential to evading cellular innate immune response in vivo, and also increases the mRNA half-life and therefore allows for higher and longer expression. Now we'll shift the focus to the different mRNA capping technologies. On this slide, we'll review the different generations of co-transcriptional cap analogs listed in the table on the right, and I'll also discuss a different mRNA capping methodology called enzymatic capping. First generation cap analogs, CAP and MCAP, only produced mRNA with a cap0 structure and also produced a mixture of mRNAs, some which contained the cap analog in the correct orientation, but unfortunately also some in the reverse orientation. ARCA, or anti-reverse cap analog, is the second generation cap analog and also produced a cap0 structure, but contains an extra methyl group in a key position, which prevented that incorporation in the undesirable reverse orientation. So while that is, of course, favorable, the reaction conditions required to support the increased capping efficiency also severely limit the messenger RNA yield. Before we get to CleanCap, just shift to enzymatic capping, which is an alternative capping option. It is a post-transcriptional capping methodology compared to a co-transcriptional capping strategy that used the cap analogs that we just discussed. Enzymatic capping can yield cap0 or cap1 structure, but requires expensive enzymes and extra purification steps, which lead to reduced mRNA yield. Those can also compromise the integrity of the mRNA due to those extra processing times required to remove those capping enzymes. But now we have CleanCap, which is the third generation cap analog. And it really takes the key benefits of co-transcriptional and enzymatic capping and provides them together. And that's what we'll look at over the next few slides here. So legacy capping methods are imperfect. First and second generation cap analogs, such as MCAP and ARCA, only provide capping efficiencies between 25 up to maybe 80%. And of course, they only generate cap0 RNA, which we covered. Therapeutic licenses for ARCA have also been fairly difficult to obtain. Enzymatic capping, while able to provide much higher, say 80 up to 100% capping efficiency, is typically very expensive and time consuming, and therefore cost prohibitive, especially at scale. But looking at CleanCap, the next generation in mRNA capping, we'll compare that to the legacy capping strategies. The main points to highlight here are the superior cap1 structure that CleanCap provides, the higher yielding transcription that it enables, the streamlined manufacturing process benefits versus enzymatic capping, and the fact that CleanCap licenses are readily available. We also have the capability to manufacture GMP-grade CleanCap at TriLink. On this slide, we can see the chemical structures of two CleanCap analogs. We have CleanCap AG on the left and CleanCap AG 3' O methyl on the right, with the extra methyl group pointed out with that arrow. Shown underneath the structures is the way that these CleanCaps align to the DNA template sequence which allows T7 RNA polymerase to initiate the transcription with CleanCap. That AG, or adenosine guanosine sequence, is the preferred embodiment for CleanCap technology, as adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, is not a particularly good substrate for T7 RNA polymerase. The enzyme preferentially incorporates CleanCap over ATP in that start position to initiate the transcription reaction. This enables the very high capping efficiency that CleanCap provides, and it also means that you don't have to limit the NTPs in the transcription like you do with legacy cap analogs in order to promote higher capping efficiencies. As such, the transcription yields using CleanCap are typically around threefold higher compared to those legacy cap analogs such as ARCA. Here we summarize the benefits of CleanCap that were discussed over the previous few slides. To highlight, you can use less CleanCap per mil of transcription compared to ARCA, but still obtain a higher yielding transcription as well as the higher capping efficiency, while minimizing the number of processing steps, therefore calendar time, compared to enzymatic capping. Okay, we've talked a bit about capping efficiency, so we wanted to kind of just take a moment to discuss how the capping efficiency parameter is measured. TriLink has developed a capping efficiency assay to determine the value for a given batch of mRNA. To perform the assay, a small piece of the 5' end of the transcript is cleaved, and that material is analyzed via LCMS to detect the amount of material that contains the desired cap structure. Some example LCMS traces are shown on the right from mRNA that was capped with 3 different capping methods. On the bottom is ARCA capped material. In the middle is enzymatically capped material. And then finally, we have the CleanCap material on the upper right. And as you can see, the CleanCap really provides the most uniform, clean product and yields a very high amount of capped mRNA. Okay, so far we've reviewed CleanCap AG analogs, but here we wanted to highlight a couple other analogs, specifically CleanCap GG and CleanCap AU. CleanCap GG is an analog that is compatible with ARCA-designed templates. It's really meant for those who are unable to accommodate an AG start in their sequence and their template, compared to the GG start sequence, which we're showing here in the center. While CleanCap AG offers optimal transcription conditions for most applications, we did want to highlight that CleanCap GG continues to be available as well. And we also have CleanCap AU, which is designed for and compatible with self-amplifying mRNAs, or saRNAs. So now we'll discuss some self-amplifying mRNA capping. Traditionally, alphaviruses that have been used for self-amplifying mRNA initiate with an AUG start sequence, and attenuated viruses often initiate with an AUA start sequence. And this AU start sequence is important for replication, as T7 RNA polymerase prefers to initiate transcription with GTP. However, many scientists would actually add an additional 5' guanosine residue to work around the traditional AU start sequence, as shown on the right in the circle. This additional residue, though, can have an effect to the functionality of the saRNA. Very likely is an undesirable modification. Furthermore, as alphaviruses are highly structured, enzymatic capping is typically very difficult and inefficient on them. As we discussed already, those enzymes are expensive. The inefficient capping that they provide due to the highly structured nature of the alphavirus is not great. And you can add heat to disrupt that structure, but that heat is very damaging. And so it's not typically a desirable or option for promoting enzymatic capping of these types of RNAs. And as these RNA sequences are typically very long, they are very sensitive and prone to degradation during processing, which further complicates the efficient production of them. So this leads us to consider capping with ARCA. It is compatible after that additional but undesirable extra 5' guanosine residue is added. As already discussed, however, the low capping efficiency and low yielding transcription do not make this a particularly efficient or viable option, especially at scale. So TriLink's solution to this is CleanCap AG, which was engineered to be compatible with self-amplifying RNA in their natural state with an AU start sequence shown here. Note the red arrows highlighting the sequence, and then the CleanCap AU structure in its entirety shown on the right. And CleanCap AU really provides a desirable, authentic Cap1 structure, efficient capping, which isn't influenced by the 5' structure, since it's the first nucleotide incorporated into the RNA during the transcription reaction. And as well, high yielding transcriptions compared to legacy cap analogs. Furthermore, the one-pot synthesis eliminates extensive processing steps required after enzymatic capping, and that, of course, degrades the RNA. Finally, CleanCap AU allows for efficient scaling of the process to meet the demands of really any program. And now we'll review some conclusions from the slides presented today. mRNA cap structure is important for in vivo performance. Previous generation capping technologies, have their pros and their cons. Enzymatic capping, while typically high yielding, does have the capability of producing either Cap0 or Cap1 structure, requires extra processing steps, and is typically very expensive. Comparing it to prior generation co-transcriptional cap analogs such as ARCA, that is a low yielding strategy. It only produces a Cap0 structure, but it is co-transcriptional and therefore eliminates the extra processing steps required. CleanCap really offers the superior performance and ease of manufacturing, taking the benefits of co-transcriptional capping and enzymatic capping to have a high yielding transcription reaction, Cap1 structure. As mentioned, it's co-transcriptional and is very cost effective. We have different CleanCap analogs available to suit specific applications. CleanCap AG and GG for traditional messenger RNAs, and CleanCap AU for self-amplifying messenger RNAs. Here you'll see the best ways to contact TriLink's team of experts to discuss your CleanCap and mRNA needs. You can visit our website, email us at the address shown, or feel free to give us a call and we'd be happy to speak with you further. We also wanted to highlight some other upcoming mRNA basics webinars, such as optimizing your mRNA coding sequence on May 19th, 9 a.m. Pacific, and getting started with GMP mRNA manufacturing on June 15th, also at 9 a.m. Pacific. And be sure to look out for additional topics to be announced soon. As always, you can view and register for any of our upcoming events at the link provided on the screen. Thank you all very much for your attention and for joining us today. We will now take some audience questions.
All right, thank you, Scott, for that excellent presentation. So we'll now be moving into the question and answer portion of today's webinar. So I see several people have already sent in their questions. That's great. Please continue to send in your questions using the questions panel, and we will answer as many as possible in the time allotted. All right, so the first question that we've got here is with regards to CleanCap AG. So Scott, the question that we have here is, Have you seen any issues in terms of solubility or stability with CleanCap AG? For example, needing to be heated or aliquoted before using?
Great question. No, we have not. We do provide CleanCap AG at 100 millimolar. Compare that to CleanCap GG that does have some tight structure and can potentially cause some solubility issues. So we provide that one actually at 50 millimolar, so a slightly reduced concentration for that analog.
Right, perfect. And another follow-up question about AG. Recently, TriLink switched their salt form and it's now a sodium salt instead of an ammonium salt. Have there been any differences observed in the performance or stability?
No, we haven't seen any differences in performance or stability of the CleanCap. We expect it to continue to provide very, very similar yields and very similar stability as the sodium salt form.
All right, so our next question here, what is the role of the 3'-O-methyl in CleanCap AG?
Yeah, great question. When we developed CleanCap, we developed the two different AG analogs that we were showing previously. I will shuffle back to that slide to show them here. We have CleanCap AG on the left, CleanCap AG 3'-O-methyl on the right. And we really kind of developed and launched these CleanCaps together, not fully understanding if that extra methyl group there highlighted by the arrow was critical. And we had a lot of clients really adopt both analogs, and we continue to offer both. Some of our clients have preference of one over the other, but in our hands, we haven't really noticed any appreciable differences.
All right, so our next question here, is CleanCap compatible with any T7 and any buffer?
So at TriLink, we do use T7 RNA polymerase and a very specific buffer for our transcription. Those buffer conditions are highlighted on the product insert for the CleanCaps. We have had some experience in kind of playing with some of those buffer conditions and salt content for the transcription reaction to drive really high capping efficiency, even higher, potentially drive the yield a little bit higher, but it is going to be construct dependent. So while the transcription reactions that we recommend are a very, very good starting point, we do encourage the users to potentially try to optimize those conditions even further to best suit their platform and their program.
Okay, thank you, Scott. So the next question here, how does CleanCap affect mRNA yield?
Yeah, so CleanCap is very beneficial to mRNA yield. Shown here, we can see that CleanCap typically yields around 5 to 8 milligrams of crude messenger RNA per mil of transcription. It's very similar to enzymatic capping strategies, but much greater actually than capping with previous generation cap analogs. Typically, we focus on ARCA, which is shown here, but as you can see, after purification, we're typically yielding at least double the amount of messenger RNA using CleanCap compared to ARCA from a fixed volume of transcription. And of course, the CleanCap provides higher capping efficiency. So if you want to think of the capped messenger RNA as your quote-unquote active ingredient, overall your yield and your product's quality due to that capping efficiency is going to be even higher.
All right, thank you, Scott. So we've had a few questions from the audience regarding the capping assay. And so could you please go into a little more detail on how the capping assay works and if there are any other methods that they could use to test for the capping efficiency?
Sure. So hopping to this slide here, you can see how we cleave off the 5' end of the messenger RNA and then analyze that via LC-MS like we mentioned. That is an assay that is specific to the 5' sequence of the messenger RNA. So our kind of core assay is compatible with the TriLink vectors that we use to produce the messenger RNA. There are potentially other strategies to measure the capping efficiency, but we really found this assay to be a very robust assay and very repeatable and works really well in our hands. So this is really the main assay, capping efficiency assay that we offer, and the one that we definitely recommend.
All right, thank you, Scott. So the next question we had here, how does a lab scale reaction, for example, 1 milligram of mRNA with CleanCap scale up to gram scale? Is that something that's possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Another benefit of CleanCap was that it is meant to be very scalable and cost effective. We offer in our catalog CleanCap aliquots as small as 1 micromole. And we also prepare custom aliquot sizes of CleanCap, really in any configuration that makes sense based on the client needs. So the transcriptions are very, very scalable. Of course, as you scale to large volumes, you need to be aware of addition rates and mixing rate and things like that. But that's all, of course, pretty standard things to consider as you transition from small scale to large scale reactions. So CleanCap is available in really any aliquot size needed to support any transcription volume of the end user.
All right, thank you, Scott. So the next question here, what is the protocol for using CleanCap? Is this available somewhere that we can read it?
Yeah, absolutely. The protocol and transcription conditions that we recommend are available on the individual product inserts for CleanCaps, the different CleanCap analogs. All of those are available for download on the product pages on our website. Some of the different analogs have slightly recommended transcription conditions that we've really spent a lot of time to optimize to promote really high yielding and high capping efficiency transcriptions. So we always want to be able to provide those for easy access on the website. And of course, we're happy to discuss those further with individual clients via email or on the phone.
All right, so our next question here, mechanistically, what makes T7 polymerase prefer CleanCap over GTP at initiation?
Yeah, so the CleanCap, I'm going to actually jump over to this slide here. Since it is a trimer, it kind of has this tendency to sort of anneal to the transcription start site. So you can see the AG shown in red here can hybridize to the TC start there and form really this transcription bubble with the T7 RNA polymerase. That sort of increased attraction, if you will, of the cap analog to the DNA template really allows the CleanCap to be already in the right position for the enzyme to really initiate that transcription process. Since it is known that T7 RNA polymerase prefers to initiate with a guanosine triphosphate, we engineered CleanCap to really kind of, in a way, sort of outcompete that. And so you don't have to limit the GTP or any nucleotide in your transcription reaction, which really promotes the high yielding transcriptions that CleanCap offers, while still being highly efficient due to those reasons I mentioned.
All right, thank you, Scott. And it looks like we are down to our last minute or two here, so we've got time for just a couple more questions. So this question here, if you're already using ARCA, is it easy to switch to CleanCap?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have the CleanCap GG, which is compatible with the ARCA compatible template that you're likely already using. And also the AG, which of course we mentioned is sort of the preferred or optimal CleanCap If you can, we recommend switching over to it since it does provide even higher yielding transcriptions and higher capping efficiency, but it does require a single base change. So this T shown in the blue box underneath the red A, that is a requirement to be compatible with AG, whereas templates compatible with GG or ARCA would have a C in this position instead of the T residue.
Great, thank you, Scott. And that is all the time we have for today. So thank you to everyone in the audience for your attendance, and we look forward to seeing you at future mRNA webinars. Have a great day.